Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Orion Talk Radio's Christmas special. I'm Joe Joseph. Joining me tonight is Popeye from FederalJack.com and Down the Rabbit Hole. And we like to spend this Christmas talking about some things that are important to us, as well as go over some news events of interest. And I don't know, dude. I get this feeling that a lot of people feel like there's not a lot to be thankful for. What do you think?
Well, I would have to counter that. I mean, I know we live in a police state and martial law is here. People just maybe don't realize it yet, but um, we still do have, do you wake up and are you able to see your wife today or your kids today? Well, that's a good day then. So you should be thankful for that at the very least. And
Well, think
we
about it.
just go from
We're
there,
vet.
man. That should be your driving force to do this stuff anyway, you know what I mean? That should be one of the things
Yeah.
that drives you.
Well, we're vets, dude, and as well as I do that there are places where people truly don't have much to be thankful for. You know, and in the United States, as crappy as it's getting, a lot of people don't have a frame of reference as far as how bad things can really get. And unfortunately, in this country, there's a lot of people out there that are neglecting their duty, if you're a veteran or not, as long as you live and reside in the United States, it's your duty to hold these elected non-representing representatives accountable for their actions and to ensure that they do their job. And as you've seen over the past month, they're really ratcheting this stuff up. The police state, the reactivating FEMA camps, S-1867 declaring the United States a battlefield. All this stuff is coming to fruition. And why? Because people are starting to wake up. They're starting to pay attention a little bit more. They're starting to feel the fire. But just as we are waking up, they're escalating things. And they're doing so with fear. They're using fear as a tool against us. And tonight, I think one of the things that we should talk about, Popeye, is the importance of not giving into that fear. Because if you do, they pretty much control you. They own you because you're afraid at that point. Oh no, there's secret agents all around, and if I speak out, they're gonna kidnap my family and all this. There's just that it's a paralyzing thing. Fear, isn't it?
Well, they use it as a weapon, Joe. They use it as a tool to control people, and people fall right into it all the time. And if when you're afraid, you don't think, you don't look at things analytically. Your body goes into a fight or flight status, and you're more easily controlled because you're not thinking things out.
Absolutely, man.
That's how they
Absolutely.
passed the so-called Patriot Act.
Ugh, out of fear. It was Ben Franklin that said, "Those that give up liberty for safety deserve neither liberty or safety." And that's it. Just like my wife said in the background here, that you'll get neither. When you give it up, you get neither. And that's, do you really feel more secure, folks? Did the Patriot Act make you feel more secure? Does S-1867 make you feel more secure? Popeye, do you feel more secure?
No, I feel
Come
less
on.
secure. More freedom
Exactly.
equals more security, ladies and gentlemen, because I
Isn't that
know with
isn't
my
that funny?
freedom, if I can carry, like with Second Amendment, if I can carry a gun, I know I'm a lot safer than, let's say, if I try to carry a cop around, because the cop is just too heavy to carry. They weigh like 250 pounds with all their gear on. They're pretty heavy, whereas
No,
a gun is like what,
right.
maybe a half a pound at the most if it's a super heavy gun.
But isn't that another thing that's like backwards from what you're taught? Where, well, you need the police and you need the government to protect you, and all it, because those terrorists, you never know when they're going to get you. And the real truth of the matter is if you're free, you're actually more safe because you're able to defend yourself a lot better. You're not repressed. You don't become um, sissified, I guess you could say. All these males that are sissified now because they don't speak out, they don't protect themselves or train themselves to be, I don't know, more manly, you know? And I don't know, man. It just seems like in bizarro world, and that's the world that we live in right now, that everything is backwards from the way it should be. And this Christmas, these are things that you should be thinking about, as you're sitting there stuffed to the gills. I'm sure you guys have eaten your Christmas dinner all day or just totally stuffed yourself silly, is to sit back and kind of think about this stuff and make a commitment. Make a commitment today to go that extra step, go that extra mile, if you will, to make a change, to make a difference. It doesn't take much. It doesn't take much at all. Last week, my wife called into Alex Jones, and wouldn't you know it, her call spawned off a whole, a whole litany of debate on YouTube, and he actually did his nightly news on the topic, and it happened to be S-1867 and the FEMA camp stuff that my wife actually brought up. Stirred a fire in him. You can make a difference. Popeye, you can make a difference.
I agree. One person can make a difference, dude. And for people to think that they're powerless,
That's
that's what they want you to think. They want you to think that you have no power and that you can't change things. And that's just not the way reality is whatsoever at all.
that's right. You too can catch lightning in a bottle. Copyright 2011 Freedom Link Radio.
Right? Joe's lightning in a bottle now. That's gonna be Joe's new copyrighted thing. You heard it
That's
first, right
right.
here, ladies and gentlemen, on
Right here
December
on Christmas.
25th,
That is
Christmas
my
Day.
Christmas gift to you. That's
Yes.
my Christmas gift to you, everybody. Ron Paul, man, he is firing stuff. I'll tell you what, I am so encouraged by what I see with Ron Paul. I
It's gonna
absolutely am
be
so
interesting to see
encouraged.
what they have to try to pull off to cover this one up.
Ain't that the truth? I mean, they've already come out and said that, if Ron Paul wins Iowa, it's game on. They're going to be attacking him left and right. And unfortunately, minus
If
those
Ron
news
Paul
anchors
wins
too,
Iowa, they'll say Iowa doesn't matter. Watch.
or
Watch. I'll,
like
I'll say
this
it now. They'll say even I don't know when's the Iowa straw poll.
January 3rd.
Okay, so you watch right now. Between now and I mean, obviously he gets attacked constantly anyway. But you watch. He'll win the Iowa straw poll, and as soon as he wins it, they'll say it doesn't matter. And then he'll go to New Hampshire, and he'll win New Hampshire, and they'll say New Hampshire doesn't matter. And then
Yeah.
he could get the nomination, and they'll say that doesn't matter. And then he'll win the presidency, and they'll say that doesn't matter.
Well, that's a lot of the argument that I get is that, well, he's only one man. You've got the entire Congress. What's he going to do? It's going to be gridlock. Well, let me tell you something.
Well, apparently,
Four
according
years,
to Obama, the
4 years,
president can do what he wants. So if the president has dictatorial powers, that can be used for good as well as evil.
absolutely.
And what
I,
would
I,
happen if Ron Paul turned around and said all the things that all these illegal things that we funded and everything is all null and void, and it ends? But you're just the president. You can't do that, really? Obama and Bush did their own stuff when it was tyrannical. So how come he can't do something for the good?
well, he
It has to
could.
eventually even out, ladies and gentlemen. There is an ebb and flow to the universe. Okay?
Yes.
And eventually, we've had so much bad as of late, eventually it has to swing back the other way a little bit. And that's what they're scared of. That's why
Well,
they need people to trust them, Joe.
well, one thing that the Associated Press was highlighting was the fact that Iowa GOP worried by hacker threat to caucus vote. All right, well, let's just analyze this for a second, folks, and
You know what
and
that means, right? That means when Ron Paul wins, they're going to be like,
they're
oh,
gonna
he got hacked. It was the hacker.
because he's got such avid followers that they would go to any end or use any means
Well, the
necessary
U.S.
to make
Justice
sure he
Department
swings it.
has declared war on Ron Paul supporters because they are now considered terrorists because they hacked the Iowa straw poll vote.
That's right. And white supremacists too. Add that to the, because Eric Holder, you know, last week he was, well, they're coming after me because it's a racial thing. Yeah, it's a racial thing.
It's got nothing to do with race, Eric. It's got
Second
everything to
Amendment
do
and
with
race.
you're
Yeah,
a turd and a
yeah.
slime ball and a poor excuse for a human being.
I just don't understand how in the name of how do people believe anything that comes out of these bureaucrat and politicians' mouths? I just don't get it, dude. How is it? How it's a racial thing? It's a racial thing? Really? You got a border patrol agent killed by you know what? For Christmas, why don't you go see how his family's doing? See how they're dealing with that how copious
I
amounts
think
of Christmas
actually I
street
think
lighting
Brian
are
Terry's
going on.
family, if I and I could be wrong, but I think it was his family. Um, they want criminal charges against Eric Holder and the rest of these people who knew, and anybody in the ATF or anybody that knew about this and didn't, or Injustice that knew about this and didn't say anything.
As well they should. But to these jerks, all they are is just they're just nothing. It's
This ought
like
to show the cops and the Border Patrol agents and DHS agents and FBI and ATF and DEA and all them. It ought to show you how little they care about you. I mean, it just goes. I mean, if if you watch the movie that I was playing clips from yesterday, that too, they don't care about us at all. They don't give a flying shit about their own people, the citizens of their country. So you think they're really going to care about you as its enforcement wing?
of
No.
course not. And you feed into the propaganda. You police officers, you civil servants, you public servants, you feed into the propaganda. You're eating it up. And they're playing what you have is a divide and conquer mentality again, where you are afraid of the people as they're all terrorists. They're all out to get you. When really they're not. See, we're all on the same side.
Well, we're
We're
all
all
civilians. We had this conversation earlier. You know,
absolutely.
cops are now more militarized, and they're always thought, well, civilian this, civilian that. Police are civilian. They're civilian and military. Okay, cops aren't military. Cops are supposed to be that in between. They're so we don't have to have troops on the streets. That's what their job is for. Because you don't need troops, you just have the peace officer keeping the peace, which is what they're supposed to do.
Absolutely.
And now they're taught that the citizens want to get them and they hate them and they say, look how people give you disrespect. Because a lot of people don't have any qualms about saying, F you to a cop, even if they don't care. And, cops get angry. I'm a police officer, they should respect me. First of
No,
all, you shouldn't expect respect just
no.
because you
Respect
have
is
that badge.
earned. It's
Maybe,
earned.
yeah, it's earned. Maybe 100 years ago things would have been different, but you guys have allowed, with that blue wall of silence crap, so many things to happen that nobody is going to respect you, even if you're a good cop, because they're going to figure if you're a good cop, you still probably know bad things happen and you don't do anything about it, because that's that whole blue wall of silence. That doesn't help. I'm not saying sell people out, but let's be honest. If you got a guy that's really a problem and he's violating people's civil rights, he's beating the crap out of people, then you should do something about it. And I don't mean give him a letter of reprimand. I mean, he should lose his freaking job. If that were anywhere else, he would lose his job. Case in point, an LAPD officer got tackled the other day and taken down by an ever vigilant father
Yes.
who caught him taking photos with his iPhone of the guy's daughter in the mall, and they weren't in L.A. They were in, I forget what state they were
It
in,
was
but
like a carnival or something, wasn't it?
yeah, it
Or
was
like a
like some
fair?
festival or fair or
Right.
something, and or maybe it was a mall, whatever the hell it was, but it was some big event or place like that, outdoor play, or you know what I mean, public place, I should say. And the little girl was getting off a ride, and he was taking photos of her, like trying to nonchalantly get photos of up the little girl's dress, uh, while she was getting out of the ride. That's disgusting. Okay, and as any good father would, some lady pointed it out to him and pointed out where the guy ran off to in the crowd, and the father went after him and tackled him and beat the living crap out of the guy and knocked him out cold. Okay, after he knocked him out cold, he searched him and he finds a loaded 9mm on the guy, and he finds his what do you call it, LAPD ID, his police officer's identification. So, I mean, and now the cops are like, I mean, I'm sure this guy was probably floored, going, "Holy crap!" Right? So the cops aren't going to charge. Now the cops don't bring any charges whatsoever against the father. Whatever, they don't go after him. But they don't charge the guy, the cop, with child pornography. They charged him. I forget. They charged him with some lesser petty crap. But they didn't charge him with child pornography. And they said the reason they didn't was because there weren't any like naked photos or anything like that. It was just random photos of different children that weren't his on his camera. That's stalker predator behavior. That's like he's selecting what he wants. Okay, if I did that, or you did that, or anybody else did that, Joe Blow did that, they'd be in fucking jail quicker than you could blink, labeled a sex offender, and throw away the fucking key. But because he's a cop, they don't do it. And I have a problem with that. If you're a police officer, I think you ought to be held to a higher standard. I was taught in boot camp that we are to hold ourselves to a higher standard. Okay? That's the way I was taught by my drill instructors. So, and it's the same thing I learned when I was a firefighter, when I went through the fire academy. You're a civil servant. You
Mm-hmm.
hold yourself to a higher standard because people, if you expect people to look up to you, to quote one of my drill instructors, you can't expect somebody to look up to you if you're acting like an ass.
No, of
Okay?
course.
So why do if a police officer would just sit back and use your head for a second instead of getting caught and emotionally look at it and understand why so many people dislike, police as opposed to 20, 30 years ago. You know, Off air, we were having this conversation, and we were talking about how in small towns, it's very different than it. At least back when I was a kid, it was different than it is today. And even in some small towns, it's still this way, where a lot of the police force lives in the town that they're cops in. See, that's important because they have a connection to the residents. Not only they know the residents, so well, that's Bob. Bob's okay. He's not that but I don't have to treat Bob like a terrorist. I know how Bob is. It's cool. Blah blah blah. Or that's Joe, and Joe may not. He might disagree with the government, but he's not a terrorist. Blah blah blah. But not only that, the other side of the coin is the fact that he has to live with Bob, Joe, and whoever else in town. So what
Right.
happens when he runs into you with no fucking uniform, no badge, none of that shit, and he's off duty, and it's you and three or four of your fucking buddies? He doesn't want, not that you would jump him and beat him up, but the point is, usually they don't want that kind of confrontation. That's why they always
Exactly.
call for backup. Okay, so they're trained to not have that one-on-one type confrontation. So
Right.
when they do, it's actually usually, it rarely happens. Usually, cops go out in packs, even when they hang out off duty and stuff. Usually, well, most of the time, there are the occasions that a cop might go out by himself or whatever. And I'm sure they always, at one point or another do. But if they're going to go out and hang out off duty and go drinking or whatever, sometimes they usually go in like two or three or four or whatever. Okay, there's a reason for that. Just in case they run, police are taught that they have to be, oh, you always got to be on guard. You never know. But you have to remember, you never knew who I'm going to run into. I could have pulled somebody over, a month or two ago, and I might run into him at a bar. That's why another reason why I have friends that are cops. They've told me this stuff, and I said to them, well, did you ever think if you guys weren't assholes, you wouldn't have this problem? Like, you wouldn't have to look over your shoulder like that all the time? I mean, I know you're going to piss some people off sometimes. I do, but I don't have to look over my damn shoulder.
No,
I keep it.
exactly right.
I always have an eye on my surroundings. I know what's going on around me, and I have situational awareness. But I don't live my life all paranoid, like I have to look over my shoulder because someone's going to be out to get me. You know. And if you have to live your life like that as a police officer because of your job, you're doing something wrong.
Exactly right. And don't think for a second that as things continue to progress and the police state becomes that much more prevalent in our society, that you're going to be safer and that don't like I said, don't feed into the propaganda because you're not going to be safer. Your family's not going to be safer. And if
They look at police and military lower than they look at regular citizens.
Exactly.
because the police and military are willing to attack their own kind.
Yep.
And these social engineers, they understand that. I mean, I used to be one of these, let's go beat the crap out of them type people. I would
Hmm.
usually be on the side a lot of times with cops. But I understand things differently because I see things for how they really are now.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I never, I mean, don't get me wrong, I was always for people's rights and stuff, but there was a part of me, you understand what I mean, Joe. There,
Hmm.
there's that part of you that it's like, yeah, I can agree if the cop did this, whoop this guy's, rear end because he needed it at this point in time or whatever. But back then, it was also when I would defend that. This is 20 years ago. It was different then because there were more good police officers than there are bad ones.
Hmm.
Unfortunately, today you have the exact opposite. And I'm not
Right.
saying that every cop is a bad cop. There are many people that join law enforcement because they want to do it for noble reasons. And to those of you that are in it for noble reasons, I commend you. For those of you that aren't bad police officers and that do the right thing, I commend you. Maybe you don't hear that from us often enough. So, being that it is Christmas, I would like to say I do appreciate the good work that police do. Okay, the problem is the bad stuff is outweighing the good stuff. Okay, and we need you guys. We don't want to be on the outs with you guys. We're all on the same team. I think that's really what Joe and I are trying to get at here. Is we're trying to point this stuff out because not to be inflammatory or pick on anybody, because at the end of the day, we're all humans and we're all on the same team. And right now, we have a bunch of elitist sickos playing mind games with everybody and giving
That's right.
everybody to argue amongst themselves.
I mean, for the love of God, dude, they teach the FBI trainees now that the founding fathers were terrorists. Look, the, if you want to go on the textbook definition of terrorist, perhaps, perhaps you could label them terrorists. But was their intentions to terrorize people? No, their intention was to gain freedom from an oppressive regime, or in this case, monarchy. And that's not terrorism. But I'll tell you this, that the Senate, the judiciary branch, the legislative branch, the executive branch, all of them, they're all right now complicit in being terrorists. They all are. If you don't openly speak out about this, especially this S 1867, if you don't openly speak out about it and you voted for it, holy moly, man. I mean, it's crazy. Now, there are two people that I know of just off the top of my head, or three actually, that voted against it. Ron Paul, Rand Paul, and believe it or not, in Southern Virginia, he represents Hampton Roads. Randy Forbes. He voted against NDAA. He's always kind of been one of those guys that just votes no all the time, just like Ron Paul. And very good. And but those are the kind of people that we need. But you have I hate to call them shills, but take Marco Rubio. Oh yeah, let's go get him. Woo! You know, here he is. He's supposed to be like the poster boy for the Tea Party. Yep, sold out already. A year into the job. I mean, where is the honor? People need to understand. If you're an honorable individual, you don't need to take an oath. You don't have to take an oath because your demeanor, your behavior, your actions will speak loud enough to everybody so they know where you stand. So the problem is these days, people can't even keep the damn oaths. There's just not that much honor left. And it's a
Judge
damn,
judge the tree, Joe, by its fruit.
that's it.
And these guys are terrorists. Lindsey Graham admitted, he said the other day when they were talking about 1867, if you're going to do something, and I'm kind of, uh, I'm, putting words. I don't want to say I'm putting words in his mouth. That's a bad expression. I'm paraphrasing is the term I was looking for, but he, uh, he basically said, and this part he did say, I want to terrorize. He said those words. I want those people who would basically be like do bad things to this country, like quote unquote Al Qaeda, the terrorists, okay, to be terrorized because of this new bill and indefinite detention. That in itself, that statement makes him a terrorist by definition, by textbook definition, by the
Mm-hmm.
definition that our government would lock somebody up under the definition of terrorism. Senator Lindsey Graham is now a terrorist
He's probably an
against.
ass pirate to boot.
Well, he is, but he's a little. You know my problem. You know what my problem with Lindsey is? He'll sit there and espouse how your children need to go fight in wars and die to make him rich. Because don't forget, he's a war profiteer.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so he's gonna tell you, and he's gonna sit there in his dainty little way and tell you how your kids need to go die to make him a
What a
rich,
good
rich man.
description. Dainty. You're damn right.
He's like he reminds me of Tom Daschle. He's like the modern day Tom Daschle.
Ugh.
Tom Daschle was the same way. I mean, I know they've been around each other before, and I know that
Yeah.
whatever. The point is, I'm saying like how Daschle was and how he was very soft spoken, but a shady little bastard that you had to keep
Right.
your eye on. That's the exact way that Lindsey Graham is. The exact way. He's a shady little bastard.
Yeah.
Okay, and he's a warmonger, and he's a war profiteer, and him, McCain, and Lieberman should all be hung for treason. I mean, they should all be taken out to a firing squad. It's as simple as that. They are traitors.
It's too quick.
The UCMJ already says, explain. There are rules on the books that how you're supposed to deal with traitors during a time of war, and what they're doing is treasonous and seditious actions.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, they are they are outright. I mean, now it's complete treason. They violated the Constitution. Hello, ladies and gentlemen.
How many times over?
But I mean, they literally just voted right in front of your face to do it, and they're like, oh well, it's for a good reason.
Yeah.
No, it's not for a good reason. One guy's like, well, I didn't want to defund our troops.
Oh my gosh. And it always comes down to that. That it's
That's why
always
they
that
throw it
stupid
into
excuse
because they attach an important bill like that as
to
a
a
little as a
freaking funding
rider or
bill.
something or an amendment to another spending bill. That's how they
Yeah.
hide stuff all the time. That should be illegal.
Instead of repeal the 10th Amendment.
That should be illegal.
Right.
It should be
Exactly right.
completely illegal to attach big bills like that onto little tiny BS that spending bills, or I shouldn't say tiny BS spending bills, it's the military spending bill, but on a BS bill, I should say, or even if it was something else tiny or whatever, nothing's ever tiny that comes out of Congress, though. So any bill that, except maybe their brains or their dicks, so they takes a big deal like this, a police state, creating bill, and they put it and they stick it in under a spending bill, and then it gets passed as law, and it's signed in. Technically, it's signed into law. But if they made it illegal to do that, half these bills wouldn't be in power.
Right.
If we followed the freaking rules.
Constitution. Yeah. Just the Constitution in general. I mean, this world would, this country would be in such, the world
It
would be a
says
better
that
place.
no law can be made that violates the Constitution or the Bill of Rights.
Well, we don't have to follow those laws. We don't have to consent. We don't have to
They're
participate.
illegal. It says it in the law of the land
Right.
that the country's based on. It says you cannot make any law. Of course, I'm paraphrasing. You cannot make any laws, or I think it's Congress shall not abridge, or whatever the hell the terminology is. But it shall not pass any laws, basically, that violate the Constitution or the Bill of Rights. And if it does, they are null and void. They are unconstitutional. That's the whole point of having an effing Constitution. Why argue over it? Seriously. Well, Popeye, I don't mind not having a First Amendment or a Fourth Amendment. I have my Second Amendment, but that'll be gone too. And, well, the entire Bill of Rights, first it was one, then it was maybe two, but now we just wipe our ass with the entire Bill of Rights, so there's not even a point to worrying about that. But it's all for my own good because I feel safer knowing that the police can come drag me off to a torture camp at any time, but Al-Qaeda will never get me.
Dude, you have a better chance of getting struck by lightning than
You have
having
more
Al
chance of
Qaeda get you.
by a police officer in the United States than you do by a terrorist. So does that mean we should have a war on police officers funded by the?
Absolutely. Apparently that's what needs to happen. I don't know.
Are we going to have a no-fly zone over New York City for the NYPD's rampant abuse of legal protesters? Whether I agree with everything that everybody and their mother at Occupy says or not, that doesn't matter. What I do agree with is their right to say it.
I agree with their right to say it.
If I don't stand up for their First Amendment rights, then I'm no better than anybody else. But
That's right.
I should not expect to have my own if I won't stand up for somebody else's. That doesn't mean I agree with their speech, and some of them are awake, some of them are idiots, but that's regardless. The way they've been physically handled and treated by the police is completely unacceptable and out of control, and if we're going to go by those rules like we did in Libya, then I guess we should have a no-fly zone over New York City and Washington, D.C.
Well, one of the things that make this country special, and I'm going to read the First Amendment just so people understand, Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof or abridging the right or the freedom of speech or the press or the right of the people to peaceably assemble and to petition the government for redress of grievances. And I am all for people peaceably assembling. And the only problem that I had with some of the Occupy protests is that when you start to infringe on people's civil rights, i.e., like the shop owner that is losing a ton of business because you're camped out in front of his shop and he has no way of like doing anything about it. What's he going to do? He's going to call the cops. When you put somebody in a place to do that, that's a problem. But if you're in like Zuccotti Park, who the hell goes to Zuccotti Park? What was wrong with them doing what they had to do? Now, granted, it's cold as hell now, so it's a lot tougher to do this. But look, if these people want to go freeze their tuchuses off and sleep in a tent, and they're not like stopping traffic or the sidewalk traffic or impeding on anybody's freedoms or civil rights, then they can do it as long as they want. I don't know what the hell the big deal was. And I don't agree with everything that they said, but they certainly have a right to say it. And you can't tell me that their concerns aren't well founded. I mean, regardless of what people's different solutions are to the problem or what they look like as they protest it, the fact is the system's corrupt. And you can be a leftist or you can be a righty or you can be an uppie or a downy. It don't matter. All I'm telling you is that people see the problem. So now, like a good doctor, we need to cure it, not treat the symptom. We need to cure the problem. And the problem, folks, is that we've been shanghaied, hijacked by a bunch of freaking elitists who think that they make you think that they have the power. And they don't. But they use fear and they use divisive tactics in order to keep us repressed. Race, income, social standing, the police. Let's keep the police and the people from seeing eye to eye. Let's make them fight one another. Look, you can't tell me, dude, that they're not itching for people to revolt. They want us to revolt like you wouldn't believe. I swear to you, they're pressing that button like as much as they possibly can. And I applaud the American people for having patience. At the very least, the ones that are paying attention, for being patient. Because I'll tell you, there's a lot of times where I often wonder, like they do S-1867, and I'm surprised that you don't have more people, or at least, a person or two just going absolutely crazy, just losing it.
That's what they want.
I
They're
know.
pushing people so that somebody snaps or people snap, and then and including the use of false flags or whatever, and then they want to push it so that they have an excuse, and I'm doing air
Oh,
quotes, to bring in martial law.
dude, speaking of that, Isn't it interesting? S-1867 passes, right? Declares United States a battlefield, ratcheting up the police state, activating FEMA camps, putting in place more continuity of government provisions. And then Kim Jong il just mysteriously and tragically has a heart attack, and boom, he's dead. Even though his health has been steadily improving over the last 3 years since he had his stroke. Boom, gone, dead, age 69. Put in place now his son, Kim Jong Un, who is in his early 20s. And there's already a lot of talk that Kim Jong il didn't have a heart attack, that he was assassinated. And isn't it funny now that you see a bunch of articles in the news speaking of loose nuclear weapons? Wouldn't it be interesting and quite chilling if something like that, like you said, a false flag, were to happen in this country with something like a nuclear attack of some sort? Seems like it would fit the bill, and they would have a terrorist regime that just out of nowhere comes out. It's like I always say, and I've said it in the past, I'll say it again. This stuff never pans out the way that you think it's going to pan out. It's always something totally different. They just come out and wham! It's not Iran. All of a sudden, North Korea, boom, done. And it could be something else. But you can't say that they're not planning for something. Deep underground military bases, seed vaults, FEMA camps.
You know about predictive programming, right?
Absolutely.
You ever hear of a game called Homefront?
No, I don't play video games, man. Tell me.
It's like a first-person shooter game. And it starts off, there's a storyline, like a timeline. And in the beginning of the storyline, Kim Jong-il dies, and his son takes over. And all the people crying, and all this video of people crying and stuff. And when you look at this video, today when you see you go back and you go on YouTube while you're sitting there at your computer, go look, type in Homefront video game trailer, and then type in Kim Jong-il dies at 69, and look at the two videos next to each other. And it's just really creepy because this was a year ago. And then in this game, within a few years, there's like martial law in the United States because of economic collapse and the dollar isn't worth anything anymore. And then North Korea attacks the United States of America with an EMP device and disables the electrical grid. And they invade the United States, and half of the United States is like a nuke no-go zone because when everything got EMP'd, all these nuke plants out in the Midwest and everything, I guess, went offline, and like somehow the middle of the country, there's like this irradiated belt that runs down, and nobody knows what's going on the East Coast, and it takes place in like the West Coast and like the Midwest over there, pretty much, and it's all like just full of predictive programming. Prison camps, mass graves, just everything. Roundups, people getting rounded up and shot in front of their kids, like parents getting shot in front of their children, and then leaving the children there to cry with the parents' dead bodies. I mean, just some incredibly sick, twisted stuff, and it's creepy because North Korea's tested an EMP device.
Absolutely.
And the reason it's creepy is this, because this kid, in real life, he's 27, the son. He has to prove to these military commanders that have been in power for 30, 40 years, that run that military. And they have 1 million man active duty military, 4 million reserve strong. Okay? People in the wings. So they have one of the biggest militaries in the world.
Fifth largest.
Yeah, North Korea. And these guys now he has to earn their respect. He has to prove to them that he can lead them and that they should follow what he says and listen to what he says. So who knows if the old man kept any of these nutbags in check? Or who knows if the generals kept him in check? We don't know because we don't know enough about North
Right.
Korea. So what happens if one of those generals is nuts and wants to start World War III or gets paid off by these elitist dickheads?
Well, see, that's what I think. That's what I think has happened. Is that they've probably been infiltrated to a certain extent, and that they've been given assurances that, hey, follow through with the plan, and we'll make sure we take care of you. But it's kind of like, the check is in the mail. Why the hell would you trust the United States or any of these elitists for that matter when all they do is deceive and destroy? That's what they do. I mean, it's they're demons. Why would you do business with a demon? You're never gonna you're never gonna come out on top. I don't know, man. I'm fed up with everything like this, and with the new year coming up, I just don't see it getting any better. As a matter of fact, I hear a lot of people, when I go to work, you're having that water cooler chat, and oh well, things are, well, hopefully soon it'll turn around and we'll get back to the way it was, and folks, it's never going to be the way it was. Those days are gone. I'm sorry to tell you, but our parents, my generation, their parents, they were one of the last hopes. They sorely neglected their jobs to hold these people accountable, and now we're paying a price. And if we don't do something now, our children, I'll tell you what, I dread the world that my children will have to live in as adults, because I just can't see it. The way things are progressing now, what are they going to do? How are they going to live? What's it going to be like? It's a really sickening thought, isn't it, dude?
Well, I don't know what to call it. I guess our it's not generation. It's not the right term. What do you call it? Uh, our I don't want to say civilization. I guess society would be a good word.
Mm-hmm.
Our society is very sick, Joe.
Huh, it's
And
terminal.
if you like, while we were chatting here, I went through and I found the Homefront trailer, so I can play the audio really quick, so people can see
Fantastic.
how creepily, close it is to reality. Even though creepily, I think, is a word that I just made up. But some of
Copyright Down the Rabbit Hole 2011.
right, Orion Talk Radio, federaljack.com. Thank you very much. Um, if you look at the comments on it, it's like, damn, is this real epic and realistic trailer I've ever seen before? Dot 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 dot. They're making a comment in, it was left on the day Kim Jong Il died. When you're reading a lot of this stuff, people are like, wow, this is creepy. So it begins. Oh my God, Homefront is now going to start. A lot of people are like, they're, even if they don't know why, they know something is wrong. They can feel it, and it's really. I mean, I don't want to hear it's just coincidence, Popeye. I don't believe in coincidence. They might have known he was going to die or whatever, but maybe because he was sick or whatever the deal was. But the point is, it's still really creepy. Here, listen to this. As I wait for it to open. This is
the torpedo.
Now it starts with a real clip, by the way, of Hillary Clinton talking about the sinking of the Chinun, the South Korean cruiser.
Yeah.
And it's a real clip of her, and it's in the video game trailer. Check this out. This is from 2010. I did two videos about this.
That sunk the Chinun and took the lives of 46 South Korean sailors was fired by a North Korean submarine.
North Korea's weapons program continues to intensify.
Now surpassed 1,000 missiles. Appeared at the UN to call for severe sanctions against North Korea.
This morning comes the news of Kim Jong.
Now, what's really creepy is in the video game trailer, Kim Jong-il dies in like, it goes right from 2011 to 2012 in the timeline, and just as it does, Kim Jong-il dies, and it's the 19th of December, so how many like weeks left. We have like what 2 weeks left, maybe till the end of 2011, beginning of 2012. So, coincidence? Little creepy.
North Koreans greet their new supreme leader, Kim Jong-il's son, Kim Jong-un.
우리 공화국의 통일은 남한과의 한민족을 갖고 올 것이며 경제와 산업의 발전을 갖고 올 것입니다.
Today, our beloved leader, Kim Jong-un, has united North and South Korea.
It's 2013.
Although costs at the pump are ready to break the dreaded $20 ceiling.
20 now the
2000
yes 2015 $20 for regular, and listen to what the character in the trailer, he's dressed up like with a boonie hat on and he's holding an American flag. Listen what he says.
Across the nation, civil unrest has intensified with the demise of the U.S. dollar.
This is not a retreat.
2017, the demise of the U.S. dollar, civil unrest, martial law, and you just see, like, in the video clip, there's cops all wearing riot suits with the shields, and they're beating back people, launching tear gas. Kind of looks like
unbelievable.
Yeah, dude. And it gets worse. Yeah, the U.S. forces retreat from like Japan and the Pacific Rim there, and then listen what he says. And then Korea takes over, because now it's not North Korea and South Korea; it's all one Korea. So now Korea takes over Japan.
Nor are we abandoning our Asian allies.
Under threat of annihilation by the Greater Korean Republic, Japan has surrendered.
Martial law is now in effect. Excessive force.
Martial law in the United States.
Hours after the president ordered a freeze on bank withdrawals.
We don't know when we will get our next.
2022. President orders a freeze on bank withdrawals, complete martial law, and listen, as I cut it off, you'll hear it, the woman come back in. We don't know where we're going to get our next meal. There's people lined up. It's videos, like real, obviously it's actors and stuff, but it's shot and put together so it looks like it's real reporting, and there's people lined up waiting for meals and stuff.
Wow.
Korean annexation continues to spread.
2024. They take, and then this is when they hit us with an EMP weapon.
The Korean Republic launched their latest communication satellite, claiming it will bring a message of peace to the entire world.
And then it goes over top of the U.S., lights off an EMP blast, and then the entire United States power grid shuts down. Which could happen because our power grid is ridiculously old. And then it says, Korean Special Forces seize Hawaii, Korean troops control San Francisco, U.S. military scattered. And then it says, home is where the war is. I mean, I couldn't ask
Pretty chilling, dude.
Dude, I couldn't ask for a better predictive, programming video if I put it together myself.
Absolutely.
And I actually played through the game, and because I'm an old school video game nerd, I played video games growing up, and I do like first-person shooters, although I haven't paid for a video game, and I think that was actually the last video game I got. And what I usually do is, because I don't want to support the industry, I try to play them to pick them apart, and I do videos on them showing the predictive programming and stuff now. And I don't want to buy them when they're brand new, so I usually buy like a used copy from somebody I know for like $20 or something. So that way I'm not supporting the game at all, as best I can. I am playing it and going through it and critiquing it now. Back in the day, I used to be one of these guys that would, I was a Halo putz, and I would, go at midnight to go get the newest Halo.
Right.
I was caught up in the hype. This is right when I got out of military, whatever, blah, 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 blah. The point is, I've played video games enough that even I could sit back as a gamer and be like, no, it's getting out of hand. Because I remember back years ago when I used to play a game called Rainbow Six, when they first started putting like live advertising in video games, and you would be playing the game, and every time you played, like if I played today with you, right, and then maybe a week from now you and I played the video game again, there would be different, there were certain advertisements for things on billboards in the game, or
really?
like if you were in like it was in Vegas, so say you were running around a part of the casino, there'd be like little light lit, I don't know what they're called. The little billboards with the posters, and they tell you what's coming up and stuff. And
right.
say it was like a convention, like Comcast was heavily featured in the video game because Comcast had a part in. I don't remember if they funded it or whatever, if they helped with the commercials or whatever the hell it was, but Comcast had a part in it. Okay, so there would be like things for there. One of the special levels was an entire level, and there was Comcast stuff all over the place in the level. Well, they could easily from week to week when you would play the game, they could change the advertising that was on there. So say a movie that was out now and had been like you would go and run around a room and there'd be movie posters on the wall and it'd be real movies that were out in the movie theater at the time.
Wow.
Now you want to talk about programming.
Yeah.
Now, as a video game person that grew up playing video games, I had Pong. Okay, so to see this progression, one, I'm like, amazed. But on the other side of the coin, I see through what they're doing. And it's very creepy. I know a lot of kids today, in fact, or even adults that are probably listening to this later on or listening, while it's playing on the stream or the archive or whatever, you guys will hear this and you'll say, well, hey, Popeye, hey, Joe, I got video games today for Christmas.
Right.
And I'm not bashing you guys at all for playing video games. Like I said, biggest video game nerd you'll ever meet right here. Okay? I still kind of in the back of my head, I like the storylines in games, but honestly, my Xbox has a ton of dust on it because I literally take so much time out of my life to run Federal Jack, my website, and to do the radio shows that I just don't have time for that stuff anymore. I've had to completely, take certain parts of, little leisure things and literally turn it off. I just don't have time. And I know a lot of it's programming and everything anyway, but I do have a thing for video games. I like puzzle games. Again, I just don't have time to play them, so there's no point for me to get into them. But I'm not bashing you at all for playing video games, but someone has to admit and point out the fact that there is some sort of predictive programming and a lot of commercialization going on. I mean, that's mind control, even in a low form. If someone's running around playing a video game and they keep seeing advertisements and stuff, they're subliminally putting ideas in your head. And it was to the point where at the time the gamers would make comments about it and they didn't like it.
Right.
They weren't happy with it. It wasn't like kids were like, "This is awesome," because you get a wide range of people, kids, adults, and everybody said the same stuff. Oh, this is bullshit, and it's all commercialization, blah 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 blah. I understood the bigger picture by then, and I was already saying things and trying to wake people up. Even when it's one of the first ways I woke people up. This dovetails with what we were talking about earlier, about when you said we got anybody you do something that makes a difference. When I first started telling people what was going on and stuff, I've had many surgeries over the years.
Right.
And during there have been times where I had to take 3 or 4 days off from doing anything, and I couldn't do a thing. And I would, if I was still gaming or something, because if I can't do, if I like when I had my leg operated on, I couldn't. I played at my laptop a little bit and did stuff, but I just couldn't concentrate because of the painkillers and everything else. So, the pain I was in, honestly, you're in so much pain and you're just tired. When you have big surgeries, you get really tired. If you've never had one, there's no way to describe it except that you feel like you got hit by a train. Anybody that's ever had a pretty an open surgery, they understand what I'm talking about. It takes a while for your body to recover from that. So even the stress of doing this stuff for the first couple of days, it really takes its toll on you. So sometimes I would play video games, and when I would go on and play video games, I would annoy the people I was playing with. I'd be dropping knowledge. I'd be telling them stories about the New World Order. My video game tag is V for 9/11. I mean, people all the time, they say 911, it kills me.
Right.
They're like, hey, 911, what's up? And I'm like, it's not 911, it's 9/11. And they're like, 9/11? And I'm like, planes hitting buildings, towers coming down that shouldn't have, and big clouds of dust, lots of lies, cover-ups.
One thing that I've noticed is that when you commit to going down the path, or jumping down the rabbit hole, and going and making a commitment to trying to educate people, because that's really what it is you're trying to give people the knowledge to be able to not only defend themselves against the tyranny, whether it be like know your rights. How important is it to know your rights? But people don't know their rights. Well, that's what we try to do, is try to speak out for people that can't find their voice or that can't defend themselves. And it takes time. It takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of energy, a lot of effort. I can't tell you the last time I played I can tell you the last time I played a video game like that. Grand Theft Auto. When that first came out, the first one. That was the last time.
I never got into that game. I like the first person shooters, but
Hmm.
like when I play the Call of Duty games, before I even go online, I play through the storyline because there's usually a lot of hidden stuff inside the storyline. Plus, the stories are pretty cool. I mean, I have to give the writers, as someone who writes and understands. Like, I can sit and watch a movie, and my wife hates it sometimes because we'll be watching a movie, and I can break a movie down when in the editing, because since I do video editing now, my eye catches when they bring, when it was just a scene that two scenes were put together, or if they did a special transition or whatever the deal was. It's always like my eye catches that stuff now. And now when I watch, it's like anything else. Once you're awake and you understand something or you know something, it changes the way you look at things. You know, I can't drive down. I used to tow for years. I did it for a very long time, and it's not just. It doesn't just involve hooking up a car and going. There's a lot to it. I was actually a recovery specialist. I did a lot of accidents and stuff. But and I've seen a lot of death. But when I see a tow truck driving down the road, I'll eye up how he's got the car hooked to the back of the tow truck. And if I don't like the way, first of all, I usually won't stay behind him anyway because I don't like to. It's just a thing. But I will definitely get the hell away from the guy if he's got it hooked up all jerry rigged,
Hmm.
because my eye knows to look for that. Okay, and I don't trust anybody that would do that anyway. My own personal reasons, car could fall off and kill you. Okay, it's happened. So anyway, point is, my eye pays attention for that. Normal people wouldn't pay attention to that, though. They wouldn't know to look for that because it'd be not in your mind. You wouldn't think about it because you don't know about it. You know what I mean? And that's the whole point of doing radio like this, is to tell you the stuff that you might not think about. Maybe you thought about it because you saw a movie once and you thought that's way out of hand, and there's no way ever in reality. Thank God that's just a Hollywood movie, because there's no way in reality it could ever happen. And then you're horrified to find out that it really does happen. A lot of people, Joe, I've noticed, don't want to admit that this stuff is real. And I'm not saying that every little thing is real. I'm not saying that they made the video game, ladies and gentlemen, by the way, to predict Kim Jong-il's death. What I'm saying is it's just a method of predictive programming, and it's very eerie about how things went down. And I'm not the only person that's noticed it. And even there is talk that Kim Jong-il was assassinated. Who knows? Maybe his kid took him out. Sometimes it's not some grand conspiracy involving,
Right. I mean, it could
the
be anything,
Vatican
dude.
and everybody else. It could be his son doing a power grab. And who knows, maybe somebody higher up from somewhere came over and had to sit down with his son and said, you take your father out, we'll make sure, blah, blah,
We'll
blah.
take good care of you.
Yeah, who knows? Maybe that's that could happen too. That's a plausible thing. We don't have evidence that happened. You can speculate till the cows come home about that stuff. But none of us know if that's true or not. And with a country like North Korea, it's very easy to speculate because they don't allow anything out. You know what I mean? It's not even like our media. I mean, our media does, do propaganda against them, but you don't even know what's going on because their own media is all propaganda. So how are you supposed? You know what I mean? You can't know what's good, what's not. You really don't know. You know what I mean? Like,
Absolutely.
if we attack them, it would be a scenario like it would be the reality of what people think Iraq is when they say, well, Saddam Hussein, he postured like he had weapons of mass destruction. I used to think that too.
Uh-huh. At one point in time, you ever see those
Until I
bumper
actually
stickers?
did some research and I realized we lied our asses off to get to the Iraq War. You know what? Let's go there, Joe. Let's talk about Iraq, because there's a lot of things that go
Sure.
on in Iraq with the Iraq War. You're a veteran of Part 1. I myself am a veteran of Part 2 and of Enduring Freedom. And we both have pretty much the same feelings about this stuff. And it's not, I think it's because we've seen things with our own eyes, and we know people that have gone through hell, and we have friends that are no longer with us because of this. So we understand probably a little bit differently than the average person that maybe wasn't in the military or knows somebody that was, who's I guess like a personal connection, like their life was personally destroyed by this. So they have to have that, you know what I mean? Like it's always the same case. Nobody really, oh, I don't believe in gun rights, and then they get mugged, and all of a sudden the guy has 6 guns in his house because he never wants to get mugged and not have a gun again. I know a lot of people that were but that are bleeding heart liberals, but when it comes to the Second Amendment, they'll carry on their hip now because they had a case where again they got mugged or something happened, and they could have used a weapon to defend themselves, and now you'll never catch them without a gun. So I mean, it's a lot of it is the what you learn and from a situation and what you take out of it, and hopefully that's what people do with what we're trying to talk about. And I get into, when it comes to the Iraq War, I get into a lot of stuff that people really it stirs the emotional pot, and I would say about 80% of the stuff I get is good, even about 85% of the responses I get. But I do get stuff where I get told I'm a shitty veteran, I'm a scumbag, I'm not fulfilling my oath to the Constitution.
There's always people like that, dude.
Oh, I know. I don't care, dude. I know. Look, I know what's right, Joe, and I know sometimes it's not popular to do the right thing. I'm not in this to be popular. If people hate me because I bring the truth to the table, then people hate me. But at least I brought the truth to the table, and I'm showing you. It's ugly, it's disgusting, but this goes to the whole personal accountability thing. We either accept the shit that went on in our name and under our noses, and that we, some of us, either, many of the people listening, I know you guys are veterans. I have a lot of veteran listeners. I'm not bashing anybody. Everybody was under, mass brainwashing, mass propaganda. If you did some of the stuff that like I played, if you took part in things like some of the video clips I played from the movie yesterday, where like the master sergeant who blew the guy's head off and then played with his brains with his bare hands and they took photos of it, that's evil. Okay, that's just sick, twisted stuff. So if you did demonic, evil, sick shit like that, well then I don't represent you. Okay,
right, exactly. Right.
Joe doesn't represent you. You are this infinitesimal, evil, little percent. But most of the men and women that went over there, if they had a kill, first of all, a lot of them did not enjoy it. That's why they're killing themselves. A lot of them are killing themselves because of
you got PTSD and all that crap. Absolutely.
Well, look at all the stuff, like the case in point, John Needham, what he went through. And then, his tragic ending where he ended up, killing his fiance because he was having a flashback in his sleep and he didn't even know that he was having them. He didn't remember when he would go into these like trance-like states. And there's a lot of guys that I know that were special forces. John was a ranger, special forces, and they had the same type of, thing happen to them. Now, that's like combat fatigue, PTSD, whatever the hell you want to call it. That does a lot to your brain. These pricks know that. These evil bastards know that one combat tour, Joe, screws somebody up mentally, okay? And they send these poor guys for 8, 10 combat tours. And why? Because they won't bring in the draft. You know why? They learned from Vietnam that if you allow the draft to take place, the war will be over before you could blink. It would be over like that if they reinstated the draft. And it's the one thing, I don't like Charlie Rangel. I think he's a scumbag, but I'll agree with him when he said that they should bring the draft back because you'd end the effing war tomorrow if you brought the draft back. Because that would make everybody realize that all of them now can be stuck in conscripted into the military. Not just the people that voluntarily join. It wouldn't be, that stupid Latino kid or that poor white kid or that dumb black kid or that dumb, Italian kid or all 4 of them are all dumb because they joined the military. They're all poor, them losers. Oh, they're all jerk-offs because they joined the military.
Well, dude, I mean,
it won't be that anymore. Now it would be, hey, you, rich kid. Hey, senator's kid. Your ass can get conscripted into the military.
Yeah, but there was, that's about as corrupt a system as anything else.
No, I know, but the point is, I'm not saying it would solve the problem. What it would do is it would attract more people's attention. The people that don't, right. Yeah, the people that don't care, and like most of these college kids don't care about the military. They don't care about the war. They don't care about politics because it doesn't affect them. But if you make it affect them, then they'll understand and get involved a little more. See, I understood where Charlie Rangel was going with that. And like I said, I don't agree with Charlie Rangel. But I understood where he was going with that statement because he was talking about ending the war. And he made a good comment, and I have to agree with him that if you brought the draft back tomorrow and started conscripting people forcefully into the military, this shit would end in about a week. Okay? It would end real fast. Think about
Think
it.
so?
Boot camp has changed since I went through it 10 years ago.
What do you mean? Did you have a stress card?
No, we didn't have that shit when I was in there. We didn't have stress flags and all this other crap. We didn't have you. If you said that to your drill instructor, dude, you were done. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
They would make you, and they weren't allowed to lay hands on you. Okay, but they did in a few occasions, but they weren't supposed to.
Well, if you got sent to PMU, you did.
Of course, no. Well, there was, if you went to certain, they had their own. They had PEP, which was Performance Enhancement Platoon. I didn't go there.
Yeah.
If you went there, you got your ass
called,
handed to you.
Ours is called Personal Motivational Unit.
Yeah, but you see, they give these little nicknames, but it's they beat your ass there, dude. Yeah, but I didn't go there. But I know what you mean. But what I'm saying is they didn't have the sissy boot camp when I went to boot camp.
No.
It changed after I went to boot camp. Now they made the guys go to bed at like 9 o'clock instead of 10 o'clock because they used to make us. Taps was 10, and then Reveille was 05:30. You got up, and now Taps is at 2100. I had to think for a second.
Is that right?
Time.
It's 2100.
Well, at least in the Coast Guard, they changed it because they were getting all these, and the Marine Corps had to tone things down too because they get all these soccer moms. Their son comes home from boot camp and he's black and blue and beat to shit. So they get angry and they write letters, and you get 100,000 letters from soccer moms, all whining about shit. They change things. So yeah, it has changed. And I also believe part of it. I don't want to say it's part of the pussification, but at the same time, because I understand when you understand mind control and everything. I understand boot camp as a whole is mind control, and they admit to it too. They told us the last 2 days we were there, it was all about breaking us down.
Yeah. There's a process. I mean, they here's my thing: is that you want a strong military. You need one if you're going to be able to defend the sovereignty of this country. The problem is the military is being used for totally the wrong purpose. Instead of defending our borders, which to me is at the crux of our national security problem right now, not terrorism. If you defend the borders and you have a strong deterrent force, then people aren't going to come in. But we don't have to go over and preempt things. All this stuff that we're subjected to these days is blowback. People say, I hear it all the time, Ron Paul's off his rocker about foreign policy. Oh, really? Really? So what you're telling me is all of these people just want to destroy us because we're so prosperous. That's what they want. No, the United States, they're so prosperous. Let's destroy them. They don't give a crap about us and our prosperity. That's not what they care about. They care that we're dropping bombs on their people, on their land, or that we're infiltrating their governments and causing all these problems and just butting in all over the world. And it's like I've said on prior shows, how would you like it if all of a sudden a wave of Chinese people came in, told you what to eat, told you what to think, told you how to believe or what to believe, and drop bombs and kill us?
Yeah, what would you do if Chinese troops were raping your daughter?
Exactly. How would you feel?
I know what I would do.
Exactly. You'd freaking go.
They'd have to kill me because I would kill every one of them I could get my hands on.
But wait a minute. What did you just say? Oh, really? So is that altogether different than from, say, somebody strapping a bomb around their chest?
No, not at all.
Same type of thing.
I said this, and again, I don't condone our guys getting killed, but I understand that if they weren't there to begin with, it wouldn't be happening.
Right, they wouldn't be dead.
How would you feel if there were foreign troops on our soil? It would be the same. You'd do the same thing. I've had plenty of people tell me they'd be doing the same thing. And, Immortal Technique talked about this in one of his songs, and he was like, I forget the lines he sung, but basically it was, I wouldn't be fighting for, Bush, and this is when Bush was the president, I wouldn't be fighting for Bush or Cheney or any of that crap. I'd be fighting for my mom, my friends, my neighbors, and my home where I grew up, my territory where I live.
Right.
That's first of all, no invading, unless you had like China, North Korea, and I don't know. You'd have to have like Russia gang up, like China, North Korea, and Russia all gang up to invade the United States. Which could happen if we keep trying to start World War III all over the place.
I'll
They,
tell you what, I am absolutely surprised that the world in general, and not the West.
well, we're the bullies, dude.
That's what I'm saying. But I'm
Doesn't anybody
surprised that
realize we're the schoolyard bully? We walk around flaunting our shit and beating everybody up and smacking people around. Hey, we're the United States. You shut your mouth over there. And you smack them around a little bit with the Boston accent. Slap them around. And, you over there. I'll come over and whoop your ass. You can't. Who the F are we to be running around giving anybody. Since when are we the arbiters of perfectionism?
we're not.
Not by far. Why the hell are we running around
Well,
telling?
we're not. Let me say this.
Joe. Hold on, Joe. I'll be devil's advocate for 1 second.
Oh God.
And then I'll let you go off. I'll be devil's advocate for a second. There are them people that live, out in the middle of nowhere, or they live in middle America and they love Fox News, or even some people that live in big cities, they love Fox News, and I guess maybe I'll try to connect with you people. I know you would say that we should kill everybody because we're America, and if they don't like it, we have things the right way, and people should listen to us. I want you to think for a second. We, the United States of America, can't even get shit straight in our own country. We can't get along without shooting each other.
That's right. Yeah, and we're supposed to go tell other people how to live.
Who the hell are we to be telling anybody how to live their lives?
Exactly right, man. It just absolutely makes me furious. Furious. But here's the thing. If you don't speak out against it, even if you don't agree with it, you're still complicit because you're silent. So basically, in the eyes of the law, silence is consent. So you're consenting to a rogue government's behavior when you sit silent. That's why it's so important that you speak out, that you protest, that you email or call your senators or representatives, that you get serious about this, because they're obviously serious. And to be quite honest with you, the most effective way to do this at this point is to take it up at a local level. Start with your municipalities, your city councils, your sheriffs, your mayor. Start there. Start affecting people and officials within your sphere of influence. You'd be surprised at how powerful you really are, how much power you wield. And all it takes is for you to get the knowledge, to do the homework, to do the research, teach yourself. And once you give yourself and you're armed with that, you have no idea the power that you have and the power that you wield. It's just unbelievable. So many people say, well, I'm just one person. That's right. You're just one person, but it's all it takes. It's all it takes. It's unbelievable.
Well, look at the difference you make, Joe. Look at the difference I make. Look at Jimmy X. He's one person, and he started an entire network.
That's right.
And then brought us different hosts on his network. That's one person.
That's right.
One guy. One person, ladies and gentlemen. One person. I'm not kidding. Look what you can accomplish. I've passed out probably 50, 60,000 DVDs easily.
Right.
Over the course of years. Easily.
How many lives have you influenced? One thing.
You never know who you're going to wake up, Joe. Can you imagine one day the one, maybe Neo? I look at it this way. People have always, I've had people say to me, out of admiration or whatever, Popeye, you're like Neo. No, wrong. No, I'm not.
Right.
Everyone is Neo.
Everybody is Neo.
Everybody's Neo. There is no one. We are all the one. Okay. Picture me and Joe and people like us like Morpheus. Okay, we're at that stage, and we're trying to show you the truth. If you want to accept the truth, you accept it. If you don't, you go back into your la la land, and you can be in your la la land. But we are showing you at least the reality of the situation. we expect you to go do the get into it yourself. You have to research it, and you're the only one that can really wake yourself up. We can lead the horse to water, but we can't make it drink. But don't think that any of us are super special or that we're superheroes, or we're just humans just like you. We're the same people.
Same people.
We do the same thing you guys do. None of us are cool. I mean, I don't consider myself cool or I'm not. I consider maybe it's because I consider myself above that or whatever. But I don't run around, pat myself on the back because I do a radio show or anything like that. I offer people to listen to my show, so if when I talk to them, if they're interested in the conversation, we talk about politics and stuff or whatever. I always say, here, listen to if you want to listen to my show, check it out. But I don't force people. I don't force myself on people. I don't force people to listen to my stuff. I'm not a celebrity. I don't consider myself that. I understand that people listen to my show, but I don't consider myself to be anything special. I'm just a human being trying to awake the other human beings because we are a part of a larger organism. And I would be failing in my duties to not alert the people around me as to what's going on.
That's right.
I don't like collectivism, their ideas of it, but we are in reality a part of a bigger organism. Like I've said before, if you look at the country like a human body and all of us as the cells that make it up, I guess you could say stem cells or whatever you want to call them, that make up different parts of the body. If you have bad cells and you're sick at a cellular level, Joe, your body's going to be very crappy health. If you eat crap food and don't put any nutrients in your body and you just eat stuff with nitrates and fillers and all this other crap in it, your body's going to respond at a cellular level, and then eventually it'll build up because scientists say, what is it? Every 7 years your body completely regenerates itself, like cellularly. So everything is repaired, because old cells die, new ones, are created. So if you're eating and taking in bad food or bad stuff around you, radiation, fluoride, all those new cells that are being built up are being built up bad, sick, ill. That makes you physically ill. You put off that vibe. You're moody. You don't want to talk to anybody. You glue yourself to CNN or MSNBC or Fox News or whatever BS mainstream news outlet because you're craving for some sort of information because you feel something is wrong, but you just don't know what's wrong. So you're surfing, but you're sick and you're making it worse by the food you take and the medicine you take. And the country as a whole is experiencing this because many people are doing it. And just like the human body, we're slowly dying. The only way to bring it back is to introduce fresh oxygen to those cells, introduce red blood cells, white blood cells, bring back the good nutrients, the food, and in that way, that's what the truth is. That's what just like if you were going to eat healthy nutrients and stuff, or healthy food with good filled with nutrients and vitamins and stuff. That's what the truth is for this sickness that we have. It's the medicine. It's the answer. It's the only thing that's going to stop this. All right, running around like a tough guy with a ski mask on YouTube's not going to stop it. I'm part of a militia. That's not going to stop it. You know what I'm saying? Trying to I'll train you how to shoot. Blah 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 blah. That's not going to help you at all. None of that crap is going to help you. Okay, half the time, most of those militias are controlled by feds. So and it's just done to trap people, and then be able to that way they can use you as some sort of patsy or an example or whatever. Okay, so that's not the answer. They want that. Now they're pushing us to it, and I'm not saying that if somebody comes and tries to rape your kid, or whatever in the middle of the night, or whatever, or someone tries to come kill you in the middle of the night, whatever goon squad or whatever, that you don't take care of yourself. If someone's trying to threaten your life and you feel your life is in danger, then you have the right by natural law, not by man's law, but by natural law, which is what the Constitution is based off of, okay, that you can defend yourself. That's divine right almost, that you can defend yourself. You don't have to ask someone's permission to defend myself. You try to hurt me, I'm going to F you up. End of story. Okay? You try to physically hurt me or anybody I love, I will F you up. I've been like that my whole life, and I'll be like that till my dying breath. That's just the way it is. You have that right to do so. But don't buy into the running around, we need to get the government, go shoot them up and everything. They want that. They're pushing for that. That's what these FEMA camps are for. They know they can't win in a slugfest with the American public. They know they can't. They'd have to bring in many foreign troops. Yes, there are foreign troops, but there's not enough. There's not enough. They need it to scare you. They need fear and submission as a tool, because there's no way in hell they could ever win in a slugfest with the citizens of this country. There's no way. Japan wanted to invade the mainland United States, and Yamamoto, the architect of Pearl Harbor, went no. There'd be his quote is something like, there'd be a gun behind every blade of grass. I mean, he knew. He knew what was up. There's a lot of guns in this country. And for the amount of shootings that happen, like people going nuts and just randomly shooting people. I don't mean like a wife or husband getting angry and getting a fight and one of them picks up a gun. That's passion. I'm talking about just random, shooters and stuff. For the amount of guns that are out there, it's very infinitesimal, little tiny amount, dude. It's ridiculous, okay?
Yep.
So when the anti-gun nuts come out and start, we got to get rid of guns to make it a safer place, horse shit.
No. Man, when in reality it's the total opposite. You actually need more guns to make it a safer place.
Dude, if everybody's armed, it's a completely polite society, because you don't want to mug the little old lady. She could be packing a 357 with hollow points. You don't know that. You know what I'm saying?
She's got the judge.
Yeah, well, that's perfect example, dude. What happens if that little 65-year-old woman has a judge in her purse? That thing shoots 410 shotgun ammo.
Hey.
So what happened? You know what I mean?
I'd say you've got a big hole.
If you and I live in a place where everybody's packing, and I think they should do open carry.
Me too.
And when people ask me why, it's because it's a crime deterrent. Are you going to go try to mug the guy with a with a Glock strapped to his thigh, in a tactical holster on his thigh?
That's right.
No, you're not.
I doubt it.
You're not going to want to F with that guy.
Not unless you're out to perhaps die that day.
And if you're a police officer and you feel threatened by that, you're a pussy. Straight up, you're a pussy.
Yeah.
Why can you carry a gun openly, but that person can't? Well, I don't know that person. Well, I don't know you. I'm trusting that you'll be a decent human being and not commit murder, because that's like one of the basic tenets that you're not, I'm not even talking about the 10 Commandments. I just mean like that's like a basic law of natural law. We're above that, right? We don't live in caveman days, so I trust that you're not just going to walk around shooting people with your gun. So why can't you trust that, I won't with mine? Oh, well, how do I know? Well, wait a minute. If I have it concealed, you don't know I have it. So what's the difference? Like, it's out of fear that people pass these laws. And out of misconception a lot of times. Because think about it. People are like, well, I'm more comfortable with a concealed carry than open carry. Are you insane? Open carry, you can see what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
Concealed carry, now, I agree if people are like, well, what happens if it's cold and you wear a shoulder rig? Then if you put a jacket on, it's considered concealed carry. Okay, well then why don't we just get rid of the whole, concealed, open, you can carry a gun. If you commit a crime with a gun, then you get held to certain laws, certain standards. But the law isn't going to stop the people from carrying guns.
No.
And, dude,
all these anti-gun laws, all they do is keep guns away from law-abiding.
This hits a real personal chord, because one of my friends down here in Miami just went through something, and I won't say his name, but when he listens to this and he hears this, he'll know who he is. And I feel bad for him, because he's dating a young lady who he met at an Occupy event down here, mm-hmm. And I've met her once. She's very nice. I don't see anything wrong with her. She is liberal, but she's pretty smart. She understands about the New World Order, and she's young, so who knows? Young kids could get swayed one way or another. But at least she's open about some of her political beliefs, and she understands what's going on at the Federal Reserve and the New World Order and stuff like that. So whatever. Apparently he made dinner for her, and he was meeting her friends, so he wanted to make dinner and stuff for them. So he invited them over for dinner to his apartment, and they loved him and everything until I guess they went on a tour of the apartment and they looked in his bedroom, and he has his AR-15 and one of his handguns out, and he just he uses the AR-15 for home defense.
Right.
So he just has it out. and which many people do. Some people have AKs, shotguns, pistols, whatever.
Who cares? It's your house.
I know, you can do whatever the hell you want. You want to walk around with a chainsaw on your arm like Ash from, Army of Darkness. Go ahead. It's your friggin' house.
Right.
So, I get, these are people that are occupiers. I'm doing air quotes. And these very hardcore liberal lefties, these, I guess they were. And they saw his gun and they freaked out and they left and called the police and told the cops that they felt that their friend was being held against her will by him with his gun, and that she was in danger. So 10 cops show up to his house, and he's like, I never threatened her. What are you talking about? And they made the girlfriend come out and talk, and verify that she wasn't in there under duress, and that he wasn't holding her at gunpoint. He never once picked the gun up at all, held it, pointed at anybody. He made these people dinner. They came to his house, and during a tour of his house, saw his own personal weapon in his bedroom, I may add, and concluded that he was holding this girl who he's dating hostage. And they called the cops on him. Now, I live in a gun-friendly state. Florida, you have concealed carry. There's gun shows all over the freaking place. And yet there are still people in this state that they thought it was illegal for him to have that gun. They said, it's illegal. He can't have that gun. The cops had to explain to them that, and then obviously the cops came over to make sure that she wasn't, under duress. But they didn't bring the SWAT team. To their credit, they did send a bunch of officers, but to their credit, they didn't, come in, kicking doors in, because obviously they realized that you can own guns down here, and maybe it might be somebody, when people call the cops, they're not always, hello, hi, this is John Smith, and my next door neighbor. People are usually like, oh my God, so they're not really making any sense. So a good police officer will assess the situation, and they handled it, according to him, they handled it okay, but they wanted to, search certain things or whatever, and he said, you got a warrant? And they were like, no, and he's like, well then, too bad. You got no evidence that I did anything wrong. I didn't hurt her. She said I didn't hurt her and that anything was wrong. These people are out of their effing minds. It's for personal defense. You know the laws down here. What are you going to do? And the cops left because he understood his rights.
That's right. And knowledge is power.
Dude, I had it happen to me. I defended when I was, I used to run a tattoo shop down here. One of the ladies that worked for us, she was a body piercer and she had large breasts. And she used to get gawked at a lot. And one day I was standing outside with her, and a crackhead came over and tried to grab her breasts right in front of me.
Wow.
And I saw him going for it, and because I always keep an eye on, when I was down there, I always keep an eye on him, and I knew them. And I jumped up, and I got in between him and her, and I pushed her back, and I got in his face, and I told him to back off, and he went to grab my throat, and I floored him. And I didn't hit him or anything. All I did, this guy probably had 3 or 4 inches on me, too, Joe. I just grabbed him by his throat, and I picked him up, and I choke slammed him right onto the ground, one arm, boom. And I said,
"You got a lower center of gravity."
Oh yeah, I'm built like a brick shithouse, so I have I got strength and a low center of gravity. It's hard to win in a wrestling contest with me.
This is true.
And I grabbed him by his throat and I picked him up and I slammed him and I said to him, "Stay down." Now I could have kicked his ass and I didn't. You know why? Because I realized that he was obviously beyond whatever he was on, something, heroin. He wasn't just drunk, but he looked like he was on heroin. There's a way to tell if someone's on heroin. I don't need to go into it. If you know what I'm talking about, you know what I'm talking about. He was out of his mind. So I knew he was not even in his right frame of mind. There was no reason for me to beat him within an inch of his life. There was no reason for me to do that to him. Why would I beat him? He's effed up. I understand. See, that's where you have to, as a human being, you have to look at things and be able to analyze something and not just react with your reptilian brain. And trust me, I understand it's very hard. Okay? So I put him on the ground and I said to him, "Get out of here, and if I see you on this block again, I'm going to kick your ass. Leave." About 10 minutes later, and mind you, most of the bums and stuff that hung out in the area that I worked, they knew to stay away from my shop and not to mess with my customers. And if they saw other bums messing with customers, they would shoo them away because they knew I was going to come out. And they liked me because once in a while, if a couple of them were like, one of them was a Vietnam veteran, he was a Marine, and I used to buy him beers and stuff and let him sit in the bench, and I used to give him cigarettes and stuff. And I gave him respect because he went through a lot, and I understood why he was the way he was.
Mm-hmm.
You know, a lot of people picked on him. He was one of the only guys that when people would pick on him, like we watched a bunch of guys jump him one night, and we ran out and we went and cleaned house because they were beating him within an inch of his life, and it was a bunch of guys versus him, these drunk assholes. And we all went out. We came out with batons and bats right out of the shop, and we were like, "It's on, dude! You don't mess with an old Vietnam vet." Guy's like 60-something years old.
Yeah,
and he's got a mouth on him, but you know, whatever. The point is, these guys understood that to stay away from the area I was in, you know, and they knew not to play around with the customers. So about 10 minutes later, this idiot comes back. And I said to him, "Get out of here." And he went to go put his hand, he went like to grab me again, right from my face.
right.
So I was like, you know, "Popeye, do you punch him in the face? What do you do?" And I
No,
went,
you hit a home run with his head.
yeah, so that's pretty much what I did. I grabbed him again by his, I didn't want to, and you got to remember too, I was a body piercer and I worked in a tattoo shop around blood. I took bloodborne pathogen classes and stuff. I didn't want to hit this guy with my bare hands and get ooze or whatever on me. You know what I mean? Who knows what the hell he's got?
Yeah, swing
Hepatitis.
for the fences.
Yeah. So I grabbed his throat again, and I picked him up right by his jowls, right underneath his chin, and I chokeslammed him a second time. Well, second time I was a little harder than the first, and I made sure he stayed down when I slammed him. Now, I didn't plan on his head bouncing off the concrete like it did, but when it did, it made this sound like a coconut hitting the ground.
Oh,
But it didn't crack open. I was impressed. I thought I cracked his head open. He didn't.
no gray matter.
Yeah, no brains, no nothing. I was glad I didn't crack his skull. Okay. So his friend, the other crackheads come over, the other bums, a couple of crackheads, they grabbed him and they're yelling at him and they're kicking him. "You shouldn't bug the tattoo shop, you know better." And they drag him off, right?
Wow.
So about 10 minutes later, well, no, I'd say about a half hour later because they're never that fast. But a half hour later, the cops show up. And they knock on the front of my shop was all glass, so they knock on the door and they motion for me to come out. And they're like, "You got a weapon on you?" And I'm like, "No, it's actually I have a concealed carry permit." I said, "But I don't have it on me to answer your question. I don't have it on me right now." And which, by the way, if they ask you, then you're supposed to answer, but you don't have to. Even the law says you don't have to volunteer it. It used to, but the laws are they changed them before Jeb got out. But if they ask, you can't lie to them, you know. So you just say to them, "Hey, yeah, of course." But I said, "Yeah, it's in my drawer. Why?" And they said, "Oh, well, you know, blah 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 blah." And I was like, "Well, what's this in regards to?" And they said, and of course, one of them was all cop, you know, good cop, bad
Yeah.
cop.
Mm-hmm.
And I said to the one that was being like bad cop, I said, "Dude, I talk to you all the time. I know you. What is the problem? Just tell me what's the deal." And he's like, "Look, somebody said, you know, that you beat some bum up and you got in a fight with some guy and cracked his head open. That's all they said. And you stomped his head while he was on the ground." And I said, "No, that's not what happened. You want to look at camera footage that's around here, you can see it from the security cameras in the different shops here." I said, "What happened?" And I told him the story. And I said, "He tried to grab her." I said, "Then he tried to grab my face twice." I said, "What would you have done?" I said, "I didn't beat him up. I chokeslammed him twice." I said, "I showed restraint. I could have whooped his ass." And everybody that was standing there, all the people that worked at the place next door, the people I worked with, they all agreed. They were like, "Yes, you know, that's exactly what would happen." So I hear the cop go around the corner. So now I'm standing there, I'm smoking a cigarette, and I'm like, I can't. And the cop goes, "Well, you know," he goes, "So it sounds like self-defense to me. Have a nice night." And I was like, "See ya." He walks away. His partner walks away. They get around the corner, and there's a little sandwich shop right on the corner, and then there's an alleyway there. And I hear him go into the alleyway, and I hear a third party voice go, "So what, that's it? No arrest? You can just beat people up?" And I was like, "What?" So I look around the corner, and it's some fat tourist in Birkenstock sandals, probably a liberal. Okay, and I'm not making, not just because he's wearing Birkenstocks, but I mean it is kind of a dead giveaway.
It is kind of, yeah.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and he's standing there, with his fat putz with his boonie hat on, and he's telling the cop how I should go to jail because I assaulted the guy. And the cop says to him, "Let me explain." And then I hear the cop, before he said this, the cop says to him, "Did you see him stomp that guy's head on the ground? Because you told me he stomped his head on the ground." He just told us, and all these witnesses said that he choke slammed him, and the second time when he slammed him, the guy's head bounced off the ground. And the guy goes, because I was being loud, I was yelling. Like, when I make a scene, Joe, I make an effing scene, okay? Because I want witnesses is what I want. That's why I do it loud.
Absolutely, yeah.
So,
sure.
And I want, you clearly heard me say it because I enunciated it very loudly. And the guy said, yes, I didn't see him. Well, he goes, I didn't see him stomp his head, but I saw him when he slammed him on the ground. The guy hit his head on the ground. And the cop said, well, that's very different than what you told us. And he said, here in the state of Florida, you can defend yourself if you're attacked.
Or other people that may be defenseless or
that's true. That's actually in the law that if I'm walking down the street and I see some chick getting gang
you actually have an obligation.
Yeah, it's the way they read it is if I have, like, say I'm walking down the street and I have a gun on me, right? If you have a concealed weapons permit, you're walking down the street and you see someone getting gang raped, you are to put yourself in their shoes. And if you were in their shoes and you felt your life was in danger, you can act accordingly. Meaning you can kill all the guys raping that chick in the alleyway. And honestly, if I saw somebody raping, if I saw 3 or 4 guys gang raping some chick, somebody's going to go to the hospital that night, or in a bag, actually. Because I wouldn't stand for that. That's not cool. Gang rape, that's never anything good. You have to, that comes back to the question of where's morality, Joe? Do you stand up for what's right? A
lot of people today don't.
I grabbed a bunch of teenage kids when I worked in South Beach, that were there was this little old lady. I don't know if she's still alive, but she used to walk around. She was homeless, and she used to sweep the sidewalks and throw garbage out and stuff, and pick up trash. And when they asked, she said, "Well, I live on the streets, and I want to keep a clean house." So she was cleaning up the sidewalk for free for years. And these teenagers, this is when I was in the Guard, these teenagers robbed her. And this guy I was stationed with, I happened to be walking on the street, and he was drunk, and I see him yelling. He's a skinny little kid, and I see him yelling at these 2 kids, and they were like 16, 17 years old, and this kid wasn't much old. He was maybe 3 years older than they were. And he's like 120 pounds wet, and he's drunk, and he's going off on him. And I see the 2 of them kind of starting to go around him. And they didn't, they don't know I know him. I'm just walking up the street. And people are walking around. So I walk over, and I said, yo, man, what's the problem? And he told me that they took the old lady's chair. She had this little folding chair that she slept in. They threw it in the garbage, and they stole the $5 she had in her tip cup. And she's standing there going, thief, thief, thief. And I was like, you stole from a homeless old lady. And the kid's like, what's it to you? And he starts mouthing off to me, and I grabbed him by his throat.
Why do you always got to grab people by their throat?
Because that's the most intimidating thing you can do, dude, and get someone's attention. Gets their attention like that, dude. It's I just grabbed him right by, right. You
always grab people by the throat. I mean,
it's I'm telling you, it's either that or punch their friggin' lights out. What would you do? He couldn't. Just grabbed him, and I said to him, if I see you on this block again, I'm going to stuff you in the goddamn garbage can, you little turd. And that's how that went. And then I gave the old lady $5, and I bought her 2 slices of pizza and a soda.
But see, that was a very selfless thing to do, and that's one thing that the people in this country, they're very selfish, they're very materialistic, and it's just because of, like I said, it's generations of kind of neglecting.
But people should automatically do that, dude. You see 2 little punks, hassling some old lady. I don't care if she's homeless. You go over and you straighten those 2 little bastards out. First of all, you never know. You might just taught the kid a life lesson.
Sure.
One. I mean, when I was a kid, I had adults kick my ass when I needed it. So why wouldn't I do that? Nowadays, of course, you're child abuse or you get bitched at. Don't you talk to my kid like that. Let me tell you something. Your kid acts up like an asshole in my presence. I'm going to set him straight. You don't like it? Don't be in my presence with your kid acting like an asshole, and we won't have a problem. Right. I mean, your children, ladies and gentlemen, Joe's a personal friend of mine off air. Okay, he's not just a co-host on shows with me or guy I know from the radio network. Joe and I have become friends. We're personal friends, and I hear his kids in the background. And although he's got young kids, and young kids will be young kids, they are way more well behaved than other people, kids I know. I mean, if I'm talking to you and you're on speaker, on Skype. Hi, Papa, but very polite, very, they don't come over, Dad. I know so many people, their kids are annoying. You want to look at the person and be like, dude, are you going to put that kid thing out of its misery, or am I?
Well, no, it's because, if you care about your children, you're gonna raise them in such a fashion where they respect, where respect is, they respect what you do, they respect adults. They show respect, and that's the thing. Everything's based on respect, and yeah, just like they respect themselves too, especially as they grow older. So I mean, it's very important that you instill these values now while they're young, or that if you see somebody like you ran into, that you correct them. And don't be afraid to do it. I know we live in a society now that's very like sue crazy, and oh, I spilled hot coffee on my lap. Well, what other kind of coffee is it that you get for breakfast in the morning, you dumb biatch?
Dude,
But
you know how
that's
many
the world
times
we
I've
live
said
in.
that? Like, oh, I got burned jokes. I spilled hot coffee on me, but you're at fault because you should have told me it was hot. Well,
Isn't it unbelievable?
but where did you order your coffee from? First of all, hold on a second. If I was the judge, I would have, ma'am, where did you order your coffee from? McDonald's. Okay, so you spilled scalding hot McDonald's coffee, which everybody knows McDonald's coffee comes out like lava. Okay?
Lava.
Not that I eat there anymore, but back when I was younger, I did, and I know that their coffee comes out like lava. Okay, everybody that's ever been there once knows that. Okay, but you're at McDonald's. Let's look at this for a second. You're at McDonald's. You're not at Dunkin' Donuts. You're not at Starbucks. You didn't order some Frappa Latte Chino, iced coffee.
Latte
You
Chino.
you ordered coffee at McDonald's. At what point did you think you were getting iced coffee?
Exactly. And
She didn't. She's full of shit. That's the point.
but what's sick, twisted?
Because lawyers are scumbags, dude.
But I
And
mean,
to,
who
to,
thinks
to
this
any
stuff
attorney
up,
that's a
dude?
fan of ours, I'm not making fun of you if you're awake or whatever and you do the good thing. There are good attorneys out there,
Sure there
but 96% of them are sharks, and they smell blood in the water, and they
Is that a real statistic?
probably not, but that's a Popeye statistic. I usually don't make my own statistics, but I'll make one for today's show. And now I'm going to get emails. Popeye, all your statistics are made up now? Holy crap.
Well, it's like I said, man. What sick son of a gun is sitting there one day and just saying, you know what? Let's sue McDonald's for hot coffee. Just how do you think that up? Not in a million years, I would not have thought that. I'm driving down the street. Oh, spilled coffee on my lap. Yeah, it sucks. Yeah, I burnt myself. But hey, I spilt the coffee. I'm the one that did it, so I'm responsible for it. But that's it. Everybody's so quick to blame somebody else. It's unbelievable, man. Freaking hot coffee. I burnt myself. Oh, sue McDonald's.
Everybody wants to sue or blame it because nobody wants to take responsibility for their own stuff anymore.
No, and everybody wants to get rich quick. Like hard work. Thing of the past. You work, you get compensated for it. No, I think I'll just get cradle to grave, or just government. Yeah, that's right. My wife just said, now you make a sex tape and you're a famous celebrity. Yeah, you get paid big bucks.
Yeah, all because you banged somebody on tape.
That's right.
Or you're friends with some bimbo heiress to a hotel chain fortune.
Right.
Because that's what makes you special. That makes you a socialite.
That's the word. That's the world we live in.
Yep, everything is glamour and glitz, and that's why little girls watch those shows like The Real Housewives. I have to ask you this because we've done shows about sick, twisted, pedophile type shows like Mr. Rogers and all this other stuff.
Oh gosh.
You know about John Connor from Canada dropping the tickle trunk, Mr. Dress Up crap on us. But have you ever seen this modern show? It's called Toddlers and Tiaras. It's on TLC.
Yes. Well, no. Let me clarify that. I've seen the ad for it. I have not seen the actual show itself.
I've never watched the show. I've seen the ads for it. When my wife flips through the channel, it's been on, and she won't even watch it because she feels the same way as I do. It is like child pornography. Okay, it is disgusting. It is like 6-7-year-old girls, even younger, dressed up like whores.
Right.
It's the only way to describe it. Dressed up like whores with makeup on, bathing suit competitions. That's disgusting. And then they wonder why pedophiles kidnap these kids or whatever. And by the way, JonBenet Ramsey was not. that was part of a sick sacrifice, and you could go look into that. Her parents were part of a cult, and
Really?
that has to do with Satanism and everything. That's why that whole thing was covered up the way it was and everything else. And
I don't even want to think about it.
that wasn't just some random guy breaking into her house killing her. That's
Yeah.
forced crap. But that's the kind of sick stuff that goes on. That's it's this. Look, dude, it's just disgusting. She took part, John Benet Ramsey. She took part in these little beauty pageants that this show portrays. It's disgusting. It's like, and you're gonna bust a guy's balls because he takes a picture of his kid, at a mall, and you say, "Oh, you could be a pedophile," blah, 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 and it's his own kid, but that's okay. It's okay to have TLC running around filming little girls in bathing suits and stuff and having all these competitions. Well, Popeye, you say about freedom of speech. No, I'm not. This isn't it. But you don't need government laws. Okay,
No.
You need parents who say, no, this is out of control, and we need to not make it acceptable. Okay, that's how you handle this kind of crap. You make it not acceptable to dress little girls up like whores. This is a pedophile's wet dream. This is disgusting, dude. It is disgusting. And I don't understand how people... I mean, there's a lot of parents, like regular people I know, that are disgusted by everything. Like, if I talk to them about things and the subject of children comes up, I'll ask them about that show, how they feel about it. And they always tell me a lot of it. I would say 99% of them. I've only had maybe one person ever defend it. Everybody else I know pretty much that I've ever asked about it has always said to me the same thing. They think it's disgusting. I mean, that is where we're at. That's where we're at as a society today. That's acceptable programming. You do realize that 40 years ago, that would never have aired on television, right?
Absolutely. I mean, 'cause there was, it wasn't perfect, but I'll tell you what, there was a lot more morals back then, for damn sure. And that's it. It's the demoralization. It's the Communist Manifesto, all 10 planks being firmly in place, and that's where we are now. Absolutely unbelievable. And I mean, think about it. As a matter of fact, folks, look at the Constitution, the Soviet Constitution, 1978. Look at it. They had more freedom in their Constitution than we have now. Hell, the Soviet states had the right to secede. It was in their Constitution. They didn't agree with it? Go ahead, get out. You think we can do that today? Yeah, federal government. One of the enumerated powers, Article 1, Section 8. Protect the borders. Does the federal government do that today? Nah. So when a state wants to go and say, hey, well, if you're not going to do it, we're going to do it. They get raked over the coals by the federal government. You get that criminal, Eric Holder, who's been a criminal now for how long? Long time. Seasoned. He's suing states for protecting themselves.
Why is this asshole not in jail? Seriously.
Why is he not dead? And I mean that because
he should have been hung for treason. Treason is
punishable by death.
He should have been hung for treason.
That's right.
10 years ago and murder actually. He should have been on at least death row for helping cover up the murder of all those children and women at the Branch Davidian little church or whatever that was. I don't want to say compound because it makes it sound
because that's it.
Just like gun ports and stuff out the window.
Classified those cow thieves up in North Dakota. And as cow thieves.
Dude, $150 million asset used for a couple $1,000s worth of cows.
Yeah, your taxpayer money hard at work.
When you look at your expense reports, how is that justified? Like there has to be an accountant somewhere going, this doesn't work. I mean, even if you looked at it from a corporate view, you'd have to say that doesn't work. I mean, $150 million asset flying around for a bunch of people because the rancher, wasn't he a sheriff or a retired sheriff or something? The guy that owned that whose cows they were, they wandered onto the other people's property, but the
Yeah.
guy that owned him, he was like a retired sheriff or something, right?
Right, yeah.
That's how he got the use of the Predator. Was that
Well,
he was? I mean, obviously, it wasn't like he called them that day. From what I understand, they had been investigating these people for weeks because this guy had said, "Oh, they were, anti-government and this and that and blah blah blah
yeah.
blah blah blah."
See something, say something.
Yeah, see something.
People just want to be left alone, right? So let's do the opposite of that. Just like everything else is opposite, well, why not just keep the trend going? So those who want to isolate themselves from the tyranny and from the oppression and from the BS, you know what we're going to do? We're not going to leave you alone. We're going to harass you even more. Total disrespect of personal sovereignty and personal rights. Rights derived by our Creator, from our Creator, not from a document or from your neighbor or from a person. Nobody can take that away. You know?
But see, people think that the government gives them their rights. Joe, all the time I hear people say, "Popeye, the government gives us the right." No, no, no. Did the government have any hand in making you, in creating you?
No.
No, they didn't. Once you're alive, they like to get a certificate of birth, and they try to own you from that point on as a commodity, so you can be traded on the stock market.
I don't like them.
But that doesn't mean that they had anything, were they with your parents that night in the bedroom? No. Were they with your father holding your mother's hand when she was screaming out, "You did this to me," in the friggin' delivery room? No. Okay. Were they there when, your father tried to teach you to be an adult and what was right and wrong? Yeah. Interfering. Like they shouldn't be. Like a meddling mother-in-law. I mean, that's kind of how I look at the government. In some if you like split it up, in some ways, some bureaucrats are like meddling mother-in-laws, and in some ways, they're like an abusive husband. Who we're the wife, we get beat, and it's, I hate you because I love you, honey. I'm sorry, baby. And we're stupid. We keep falling for it. Well, okay, I love you. I know you only hit me because I deserve it. And on the other hand, you get the meddling mother-in-law people that are, "What are you doing over there? Are you okay? I think he's going to hurt himself." You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Like, why are we... Our founding fathers would be barfing if they were alive, just so you people know. They would be puking, okay? They would probably be on megaphones getting arrested right now at some, protest somewhere. Actually, no, by now they probably would have already taken care of business and things would have been changed. Because we're back right where square one. we're right back.
We're past that, dude.
Dude, when we read the Declaration of Independence, when you read it and then I played it you read it on your show, and the next day I played a audio clip of it on mine. And if people listen to it, it's like they're talking about what's going on today. It's like Jefferson was sitting in Congress today writing this thing in the background as he listened to all these idiots take away our freedoms. It's really, 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 really scary. Is it not, Joe?
No, absolutely.
It's history repeating itself, man. That's creepy. I don't want to say scary, but it's creepy. It's creepy that we're allowing that to happen. What the hell is wrong with us? What is wrong with this country? What is wrong with us that we aren't saying, "You guys are fired, you're out"?
A lethargy that's really been a long time in the making, and it's not gonna solve itself quickly. And I hope and pray that we have enough time to right the ship. I really do, but I'm not encouraged by a lot of the things that I see. And at the same time, I'm encouraged by some of the things that I see, you see? So, I mean, it's kind of like I'm being ripped apart because I'm a glass is half empty guy and a glass is half full guy all at the same time. It's awful.
What do you think of the medical marijuana crackdowns?
It should be a states' rights issue. The federal government should have no purview in that at all. You know, if a state decides that they want to do medicinal marijuana or even legalize it, it should be their response. The DEA should not even exist.
The Drug Enforcement Agency. You ever listen to their name? The Drug Enforcement Agency. So they're enforcing drugs?
Yeah.
Does that make any sense to you? Wouldn't it be like War on Drugs Enforcement Agency?
Something
Why
like
is it
that.
Drug Enforcement Agency? That does. I mean, if you think about it, people are like, well, I don't get it. The DEA gets caught all the time, smuggling drugs with the CIA and covering things up, and I don't understand, and blah, 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 blah. Well, they call themselves the Drug Enforcement Agency. They didn't say the War on Drugs, Enforcement Agency, or, Stopping Drugs Enforcement Agency. They just said Drug Enforcement Agency, so they're enforcing drugs. That's what they're doing. They're protecting the drug smugglers. Now I get it, Joe.
It's all a scam, and everything's backwards. Everything is backwards. And all I can say is I hope and pray that our work, the things that you and I do, Popeye, and everybody else, whether you be Alex Jones or Celtic Rebel. I mean, did I go there? Oh, geez, I went there. Oh, God. But I just hope that people understand that we do this because we know that there's hope for us and for this country to do this. And all it takes is that one flash in the pan or catching lightning in a bottle. I said it again. But it's true. It just takes that one person. You just never know when it's going to be. And like I said, events never pan out the way that you think it's going to pan out. So all I can tell you is, folks, keep fighting the good fight, because we're entering a time where it's either going to make us or break us. And really, we're going to make us or break us. It's going to be us. It's not going to be the elitists. It's going to be us. Let's take hold of our destiny as a nation and take control back. It's all this idea that these elitists control us, that folks, look on, go to the Freedom Link Radio and look at the way, because I have a lot of footage from C-SPAN of these people debating like secret torture tactics. Who the hell do they think they are? Since when do they have the right to classify us as terrorists? Are you kidding me?
Joe, you're a terrorist for even speaking this message.
No.
You have now been recorded by the Department of Homeland Security. Homeland. I say it in the German accent on purpose.
Yes. What are you?
Homeland Security. Yes, papers, please. Homeland Security will be at your house in 5 minutes.
How much worse off are we, though, dude? Think about it.
We're pretty much there.
The Nazis, they would never have thought, and as sick and twisted as they were, never would have thought to grope your wife, to go ahead. We want to see your papers, and by the way, get out of your vehicle so I can touch your wife's breasts and pat her on the bosom.
Yeah, they didn't even try that in Nazi Germany, dude.
No!
Look where we're at. Well, I told you the story about when I ran into a guy that worked at TSA, and he told me he was proud that he was the groper guy.
Yeah.
And he was the bagger at Winn-Dixie. And that was his sole job, was the bagger at Winn-Dixie.
Imagine that.
And I was like, wow, they don't even trust you stocking shelves. And you're the groping guy at the airport. No wonder they hired you.
Because it's not a threat. Because there's no threat there, dude.
Of course. Well, that's what I'm saying. They hired him also because... obviously,
because they need stupid people in those positions.
They need people with no morals and that are just desperate for attention, just to.
Absolutely.
Because obviously this guy hasn't gotten laid in a long time. So the only action he gets is when he goes to work for the TSA.
I'm at my wit's end, but I'll tell you this, man. As we enter this turbulent time, it's you dread it, and at the same time, I'm excited because things are coming to a head, and we're going to see a conclusion of this thing. I know that that's the case, that we'll see a conclusion, and it's either going to suck or it's going to be real good. That's at this point in time. Half of me says, I wish they would just get it over with. I wish we would just get it over with. I wish that Christ would just come back tomorrow. But one thing that, I being a
well,
believer,
for all the God-fearing Christians out there that might hear this, especially on Christmas Day, I wouldn't pray for Christ to come back, because let me tell you what, if that whole thing is true and he does come back, he's going to be a little pissed off at you people for allowing this stuff to go on and turning the other cheek and pretending to be a quote-unquote Christian while you allow this kind of shit to go on, okay? Any good human in their right mind would not tolerate the evil war crimes, the evil that we have allowed and unleashed on innocent civilians in the Middle East, okay? And I say we because we as a people have allowed it to happen. We have not stopped it yet. So we are guilty, all of us, whether we pulled the trigger over there or we sit here on our computers, we are guilty. Now, I try to notify people about it and wake people up about it. That's how I try to at least make up for what was done in my name, but I can never give back these people back to their families. I mean, we've erased people from history. Gone. Like they never existed. And we act like it's okay because they're Arabs. Well, what happens when somebody decides that it's okay because they're Americans? Oh, that'll never happen though, right, Joe?
it just makes me sick how people can believe that, Oh, we're doing this for your safety. We're doing this for the betterment of society.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, tonight Joe and I have covered a wide variety of topics.
And Christmas, no less.
Yes, and I know that we brought some hardcore stuff to the table, but that is our jobs. Sometimes we are hated for it. That's okay. It's to be expected. I understand.
Comes with the territory.
Yep, I'm not here for popularity or make friends. I'm here to get the truth out and to let you guys know what's going on, and then you can take the information and run with it.
That's right.
And we thank you for listening to this Christmas broadcast.
Love you long time.
And we promise we will be back with normally scheduled broadcasting.
Yes.
Later on, especially on Monday, don't worry, WTF will be back live, and Joe will be back live on Tuesday. I'll be back live Wednesday, but it was Christmas, so, we figured we would do a pre-recorded show. That way we could spend a little time with our families, because usually we actually, even on other holidays, including Thanksgiving, have worked. So today we're taking the day off just to spend some quality time with our families and remember why we fight and do what we do. So thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for listening, and we'll see you soon. Joe, got any parting words for the listeners?
No, nighty-night. Have a safe and happy holiday, whatever's left of it, and I'll catch you on Tuesday evening.
Yes, Merry Christmas, Happy
Merry
New
Christmas.
Year, Happy Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, Festivus, whatever you celebrate. I personally like Festivus myself. I put an aluminum pole up in my living room, and my family airs their grievances. Yes, that's a Seinfeld reference, ladies and gentlemen.
Hot dog. And I bet you wear a poofy shirt, too.
I love my puffy shirt. I look like a pirate.
Arg.
Arg. Ladies and gentlemen, have a Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and we'll see you again soon. Good night.